This story is called My Wife Told Me I Was Nothing More Than a Co-Parent, Not Her True Match. So I became exactly that, distant, unavailable, and detached. And by the time she realized what she'd done, it was already too late. Hey Reddit, throwaway account for obvious reasons. I honestly never expected to be posting something like this, but I've been lurking around this subreddit for a while now, and I figured maybe my situation could actually help someone else dealing with the same kind of crap. I'm 39, and I met my wife Lauren, who's 37, back in our sophomore year of college. She was a psychology major, absolutely stunning, and had strong, fiery opinions about pretty much everything. She was always going on about breaking gender roles, tearing down the patriarchy, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I was the complete opposite, more grounded, majoring in business, working 2 jobs just to get through school without drowning in debt. Even though we were clearly different people, something about us just worked. We clicked. At first, I was drawn to her passion. It was intense, but in a good way, and she seemed to really value the stability I brought to the table. We stayed together all through college, moved in right after graduating, and ended up getting married when we were 28. Then at 31, we had twins, a boy and a girl, Mason and Chloe. After graduation, I landed a position at a financial firm and threw myself into it completely. I worked insane hours, late nights, weekends, bringing work home, basically doing whatever it took. Eventually, all that effort paid off, and I worked my way up to senior portfolio manager. The money was great, no question, but it came at the cost of being constantly drained. Meanwhile, Lauren kept bouncing between different career paths. She started out in HR, then quit to try marketing, and after that decided she wanted to be a freelance writer focused on women's issues. That last one never really brought in any money, but she insisted it was her passion and that I should be supportive of her dreams. Over time, her blog basically became her whole identity. It revolved around empowering women, encouraging them to reject societal expectations, and calling out toxic relationship dynamics. Looking back now, the irony there is pretty hard to ignore. While I was focused on building a career and providing for our family, she was out attending networking events, joining women's circles, and running a blog that maybe 50 people actually read. I'm not trying to sound bitter, but the truth is, I was also handling most of the responsibilities at home. I was the one getting up with the kids, making breakfast, helping with homework, and showing up to school events. Not because I thought I was some incredible dad, but because someone had to step up, and she was always too busy figuring herself out. So that's where things stood when everything finally blew up. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week, taking care of most of the parenting, while she focused on building her brand, and still complained that I wasn't emotionally available enough. It all came to a head on a completely ordinary Tuesday night. Nothing unusual about the day. I had just finished putting the kids to bed after a 12-hour shift. I was completely wiped, but I still managed to help Mason with his science project and read Chloe her favorite story before they fell asleep. When I came downstairs, Lauren was standing in the kitchen, rinsing a plate in the sink. I was actually thinking maybe we could watch something together before bed, one of the few things we still did as a couple. That's when she dropped it on me. You're nothing more than a co-parent to me, Ryan. Not my real match. It hit me like a truck. You know that feeling when all the air gets knocked out of you? Yeah, this was worse. Way worse. What made it even more surreal was how calm she sounded. Like she was casually mentioning we were out of dish soap or something, not ending a decade-long marriage with a single sentence. I just stood there, frozen, staring at the back of her head like an idiot. She didn't even bother turning around, just kept washing that stupid plate like nothing had happened. So that's how you see me? I finally managed to say. My voice didn't even sound like mine, it felt chujum. She shrugged, actually shrugged, and then said, I think we both know this hasn't been a real marriage for a long time. Then she kept going. You don't challenge me intellectually. You don't really understand what I need as a woman in today's world. But honestly, the worst part wasn't even the words. It was the way she said them. No emotion, no hesitation, no regret, nothing. Like I was just some random guy she had to deal with because we happened to have kids together. Not the man who spent the last 10 years supporting her through 3 career changes, paying for her, finding herself, retreats, and keeping everything running while she worked on a blog that never made a single dollar. I want a partner who matches my energy and understands my journey, she continued, finally turning around to face me. Someone who challenges me and appreciates how much I've grown. I've evolved so much in the last few years, and you're still the same. The same? I had gone from an entry-level analyst to a senior portfolio manager. I had become a father. I had supported every single idea and passion project she chased. But apparently, none of that counted as growth. I'm not saying we need to end things, she added when she saw the look on my face. The kids need stability. We can still co-parent effectively, I just think we should be honest about what this relationship actually is. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like her honesty was some kind of gift. Like telling me I was nothing more than a glorified babysitter and a walking ATM was supposed to be appreciated. But I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just nodded and said, I see. Then I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I heard her call after me. Ryan, aren't we going to talk about this? But what exactly was there to talk about? She had made her position perfectly clear. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I just laid there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out when it all changed. When did I become nothing to her? The signs had been there all along. I was just too busy, too blind, or too unwilling to face them. The way she used to light up when I walked into a room? Gone. Those random texts during the day, dumb jokes, songs that reminded her of me? Gone. The real affection, the kind that actually meant something, not just a quick automatic peck on the cheek? Also gone. When was the last time she actually asked about my day and really listened? Not just the empty, how was work, people say out of habit. When was the last time she went out of her way to do something kind for me? Or stood up for me when her friends were trashing their husbands and lumping me in with them? I started thinking about how often she was glued to her phone when I was around. Scrolling Instagram, sharing posts about outgrowing people and finding your authentic self. Always tagging stuff like hashtag know your worth and hashtag never stop growing. Meanwhile, I was the one waking up with the kids when they had nightmares, packing their lunches, taking them to soccer practice, helping with homework, all while working 50+ hours a week. Her energy, her excitement, her real smiles, they were all reserved for other people now. Her progressive friends who constantly told her she deserved more. Her life coach charging $275 an hour to convince her she was settling. The women in her online circles who validated every selfish thought she had. Everyone but me. I had been telling myself she was just stressed, tired, busy, making excuses because I didn't want to face reality. But now I couldn't ignore it anymore. She didn't fall out of love overnight. She had been showing me for years that I was just convenient. I just didn't want to see it. The hardest realization hit me sometime after 2 a.m. I had spent years trying to make her happy, working harder, doing more, supporting everything she wanted, while she kept raising the bar and finding new reasons I wasn't enough. And the truth was, it was never going to be enough. Because she had already decided I wasn't enough. It wasn't about what I did. It was about how she saw me. And that's when something in me finally clicked. I was done trying. The next morning, I got up before her like I always did, made breakfast for Chloe and Mason, packed their lunches, just the usual dad routine. When Lauren came downstairs wearing that silk robe I bought her for our anniversary, I didn't say a word. Didn't ask how she slept. Didn't comment on anything. Nothing. She noticed. I could tell by the way she kept glancing at me, like she was expecting something. She probably thought I was going to beg, or apologize, or promise to do better and meet her expectations. But I wasn't doing any of that. I was done. If that's how she saw me, as nothing more than a co-parent, then fine. I decided I'd lean all the way into it. Nothing extra. Nothing missing. Exactly what she asked for. You're pretty quiet this morning, she said eventually, trying to sound casual. I just gave a small shrug. Got a lot on my mind. Work stuff. She leaned against the counter, holding her coffee. Do you want to talk about what I said last night? I think it's important we're on the same page. We are on the same page, I said, still focused on making Mason's sandwich. You made yourself very clear. Ryan, I wasn't trying to hurt you, she replied, slipping into that slightly condescending tone she used whenever she thought she was being emotionally aware. I was just being honest about where I am right now. I appreciate the honesty, I said flatly. Now we both know exactly where we stand. I could see the confusion on her face. She had expected something else. Anger, maybe tears, or at least some desperate attempt from me to become the man she suddenly decided she wanted. Instead, all she got was calm acceptance. And that completely threw her off. After dropping the kids off at school, I went through my day with a different mindset. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was just the father of her kids. That's it. No more favors. No more sitting there while she went on and on about how exhausting her day was after rearranging furniture or writing another blog post. That night, when she got back from one of her women's empowerment meetings, which I later realized was basically just her and her friends complaining about their husbands, I was helping the kids with their homework. She walked in, tossed her designer bag onto the chair, the one I paid for, and just stood there, waiting, like she expected me to ask how her meeting went. I didn't. I stood up, told the kids I'd be in my office if they needed anything, and walked out. The look on her face? Honestly, priceless. Once I got into my office, I opened my laptop and created a new document. I titled it, Exit Strategy. Then I started writing out everything I needed to do to protect myself and the kids. First item on the list, call a lawyer. And just like that, this became our new normal. No more small talk. No more checking in during the day. No more doing little things for her. At dinner, my attention was on the kids. I talked to them, joked with them, stayed engaged, but not with her. If she spoke directly to me, I'd answer, but keep it short and polite. How was your day? She'd ask. Fine. That's it. No details. Did you see that email from Chloe's teacher? Yes. Already handled. Conversation over. I started making my own plans on weekends too. Sometimes I'd take the kids out without even telling her where we were going. She'd text asking where we were, and I'd purposely wait, sometimes an hour, before replying with something short like, out with the kids. Back later. I also started focusing on myself again. Over the years, Lauren had made little comments about how I'd let myself go after the kids were born. Even though I was the one waking up at 4:45 a.m., working, taking care of the house, making sure everything ran smoothly. But in one way, she was right. I had neglected myself. So I started fixing that. I hit the gym during my lunch breaks, cleaned up my diet, got a proper haircut, and bought clothes that actually fit me well. Over a couple of months, I dropped about 30 pounds and built some muscle. Nothing extreme, just taking care of myself for my own sake, not to impress her. I also started reconnecting with people I hadn't seen in years. Lunch with old college friends, joining a weekend basketball league, actually living like someone who had a life outside of just being Lauren's husband and the twins' dad. The first Saturday I took the kids out by myself, she was sitting on the couch when we got back. She was pretending to scroll on her phone, but I could tell she was watching videos. Probably something about setting boundaries with men, or whatever. Where'd you guys go? She asked, trying to sound casual. Out, I said, dropping my keys. Kids wanted to do something, so we went. Her lips tightened a bit. It would have been nice to know. As their mother, I should be aware of where my children are. I just shrugged. Didn't think it mattered. You're usually too busy with your blog to come anyway. That's not fair, she said, sitting up straighter. My work matters too. Sure it does, I replied, not even arguing. Kids, go wash up before dinner. As they ran upstairs, she followed me into the kitchen. What's going on with you? She asked. You've been acting weird ever since we talked. Nothing's going on, I said, pulling ingredients out for dinner. Just being a co-parent like you wanted. That's not what I meant, and you know it, she snapped, crossing her arms. For the first time in days, I actually looked straight at her. What did you mean, Lauren? Because you're nothing more than a co-parent to me sounds pretty clear. She let out a frustrated breath. I mean, our relationship has evolved. That doesn't mean we can't still be partners in other ways. Right, I nodded slowly. Partners. Like roommates who share kids. Got it. That was the first real crack in her little setup. She thought she could emotionally check out of the marriage, reduce me to a provider and babysitter, but still keep the perks of having a husband when it suited her. She was starting to realize it didn't work like that. Around that same time, I had my first consultation with a lawyer. Of course, I didn't tell Lauren. I just wanted to understand my position. To my surprise, the lawyer said I had a strong case for at least 50-50 custody, maybe even more, considering how involved I was in the kids' lives. She advised me to start documenting everything. Every school event Lauren skipped. Every doctor's appointment I handled. Every time I helped with homework. So I did exactly that. I created a detailed log, dates, times, everything. I saved emails from teachers who reached out to me instead of her because they knew I'd actually respond. I tracked it all, just in case. At the same time, I started setting aside money in a separate account Lauren didn't know about. I wasn't hiding assets. Everything would be disclosed if it came to divorce. But I made sure I had funds that were mine. The lawyer confirmed it was completely legal, as long as I wasn't using joint money improperly or concealing marital assets. It didn't happen overnight, but eventually, Lauren started noticing the shift. She'd try to start conversations about her day or something deep she read online. I'd just nod or give one-word responses. She even started wearing more revealing outfits around the house. Too little, too late. I also noticed how she suddenly took an interest in things I was doing. One day, while talking to the kids, I mentioned possibly taking them skiing in the winter. That sounds fun, she jumped in quickly. I've always wanted to learn how to ski. I didn't even acknowledge her. I just kept talking to Chloe and Mason like she hadn't said anything. Then one night, about 8 weeks into this new routine, I was sitting on the couch reading when she came over and sat down next to me, closer than she had in months. You've lost weight, she said, her eyes slowly scanning me. Yeah, I replied, not even looking up from my book. You look good, she added, her voice softening slightly. Really good, she added. Thanks. I didn't even look up. Ryan, she said softly, placing her hand on my arm. Can we talk? It feels like there's this wall between us lately. I finally lifted my eyes and looked at her. What do you want to talk about? Us, she said, almost relieved she had my attention. I feel like you've completely pulled away from me. I'm just respecting the boundaries you set, I replied calmly. You made it pretty clear what I am to you. I'm just adjusting. I think you misunderstood what I was trying to say, she said quickly, already backpedaling. I never meant that I don't care about you, or that our relationship doesn't matter. I slowly closed my book. Then what exactly did you mean when you said I'm nothing more than a co-parent to you? I asked. What possible way was I supposed to interpret that? She hesitated. I was just trying to be honest about feeling disconnected. I didn't mean it had to stay that way forever. Well, I said, standing up, I've had some time to think about it, and I realized you were right. We are just co-parents. And honestly, that's all we need to be for the twins. Then I walked away, leaving her sitting there. For the first time, she was the one watching me go. A few nights later, she came home clearly irritated, probably after seeing one of her friends post about some romantic vacation. I was sitting in the living room, reading, looking better than I had in years, and she just stood there, like she was waiting for me to notice her. You've been acting weird for weeks, she finally said. I glanced up from my book. Weird how? I don't know, just different. Distant. It's like you're not even trying to make this relationship work anymore. I closed my book slowly. I thought that's what you wanted. She blinked like I just hit her. What? You said we're just co-parents. I reminded her, keeping my voice steady. So that's what I'm doing, parenting. Everything else doesn't matter, right? I paused for a second. Isn't that what you and your empowerment group are always talking about? Being your authentic self? She just stared at me, opened her mouth like she was about to say something, then stopped. And that silence told me everything. She hadn't expected this. She thought I'd chase her, fight for her, keep trying to win her back while she treated me like I didn't matter. Instead, I gave her exactly what she asked for. And now she didn't know what to do with it. This isn't what I wanted, she said finally, her voice quieter. I wanted us to work on things, not just give up. Funny way of showing it, I replied. Telling someone they're nothing more than a co-parent doesn't exactly motivate them to invest emotionally. I was frustrated, she said, sitting down across from me. I felt like you weren't hearing me when I said I felt unfulfilled. And now I hear you loud and clear, I said. Message received. She looked at me for a long moment. So that's it. After 10 years of marriage, you're just checking out? The irony was so thick I almost laughed. I learned from the best. After that, things shifted again. She started paying attention to me more, watching, listening, trying to figure me out. She'd pause before speaking, like she was carefully choosing every word. She was waiting for me to crack, waiting for me to break this new version of myself. But I didn't. Then she started trying in small ways, asking if I needed anything from the store, bringing up shows we used to watch together, gradually getting more direct, wearing lingerie that had been sitting untouched in her drawer for months, talking about how important male energy was in the home, which was a complete 180 from her usual men are the problem narrative. I also noticed she stopped posting all those passive-aggressive quotes online, stuff about outgrowing people and knowing your worth. Funny how quickly that changed. One evening, after the kids were asleep, she cornered me in the kitchen while I was cleaning up. You really don't care anymore, do you? She asked. About what? I said, placing the last dish in the rack. She let out a frustrated sigh. About any of this. About us. I looked at her and shrugged. There is no us. Her jaw tightened. So that's it. You're just okay with things being like this? I dried my hands and looked her straight in the eyes. No, but I've accepted it. You made it clear how you see me. I'm just matching that. That's not what I meant, she said defensively. I almost laughed. Isn't it? I said. Because for years now, you've treated me like nothing more than a paycheck and an occasional babysitter. You and your friends sit around talking about how useless men are, while I'm the one keeping this entire family afloat. I paused. Well, congratulations. You convinced me. We're just co-parents now. That's all we'll ever be. Ryan. Please, she said, and I could see tears forming. I made a mistake. I was just lashing out because I felt ignored. Ignored? I actually laughed this time. Lauren, I've been bending over backwards for you for years. Supporting every career switch, every new hobby, every finding yourself phase. I've been the one holding this family together while you were busy posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. So don't tell me you felt ignored. She wiped at her eyes. I know I've messed up. We both have. But don't we owe it to ourselves, to the kids, to try and fix this? The time to fix it was before you decided I was just a co-parent, I said. You don't get to downgrade someone and then be surprised when they stop treating you like a priority. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because she knew I was right. She had been the one to destroy what we had. She spent years convincing herself I didn't matter, and now that I'd stepped back emotionally, she was finally understanding what that actually meant. She expected me to chase her, to fight for a place in her life she had already pushed me out of. But when I didn't, she was the one who felt the distance. Over the next few weeks, she tried harder, cooking my favorite meals, asking about my day, and actually listening, offering to take care of the kids so I could have time to myself, suggesting date nights, initiating physical contact. But it didn't matter. It was too late. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I couldn't forget the way she dismissed our entire relationship like it was nothing. Every time she tried to get close, I heard her words again. Her tone. The way she didn't even bother turning around when she told me I meant nothing to her. The final straw came one night when I overheard her on the phone with one of her friends. "I don't know what to do," she said quietly. "He's completely different. It's like he flipped a switch." "No, that's the thing. He's not even angry. He's just gone. Emotionally gone." "I know. I've tried everything." Of course I apologized. I told him I was just frustrated and didn't mean it. "No, he's not buying it. I don't know what I'll do if he actually leaves." "Yes, I know that's what I said before, but I didn't really want a divorce. I just wanted him to pay more attention to me." That was all I needed to hear. That confirmed everything. Her honesty had just been a manipulation. She thought threatening my place in her life would make me try harder. Instead, I called her bluff. And now she was panicking. I quietly stepped away before she could notice me. I didn't need to hear anything else. At that point, I already knew exactly what needed to happen. After 3 months of living like that, I decided it was time to make the final move. No drama, no shouting, no emotional meltdown, just clarity and one clean, decisive moment. One night, after the kids were asleep, I sat down across from Lauren at the kitchen table. In front of me was a manila folder. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up from her phone, and for a second, she almost seemed hopeful. "Yeah, I want a divorce." I wasn't sure what I expected: anger, tears, denial, something. But instead, silence. She just stared at me, like her brain couldn't quite process what I'd just said. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Are you serious?" I nodded. Completely. Then I slid the folder across the table toward her. "What's this?" she asked, opening it slowly. "Divorce papers. Already filled out. And a few other things you should probably look at." Inside wasn't just paperwork. There were financial statements, records, evidence. While she had been finding herself, I had been quietly preparing. I had moved about 70% of my recent bonuses into accounts she didn't know about. I had documented every time she chose self-care over being there for the kids. I had records showing I was the one attending school events while she was off at retreats. And most importantly, there was a letter from my lawyer explaining that, based on my income and the custody plan I was proposing, primary custody for me, she would likely be the one paying child support, not the other way around. Her face drained of color. "You can't be serious," she said. "The courts always favor the mother." "Not when the mother isn't present," I replied calmly. "I've been documenting everything for months. The kids' teachers know me, not you. I'm the one taking them to doctor appointments. I'm the one helping with homework. You've been too busy with your blog and your journey to actually show up as a parent." I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. Every school event, every doctor's visit, every parent-teacher meeting, all logged, with notes on who attended. "The custody evaluator is going to take one look at this and know exactly who's been raising these kids," I said. "And it's not you." "But I need time," she stammered. "You know my blog is about to take off. My life coach says I'm right on the edge of a breakthrough." "Yeah," I said, shaking my head. "You've been saying that for 3 years. Meanwhile, I've been promoted twice and saved enough to put the kids through college. What exactly have you contributed, besides Instagram posts about how oppressed you are?" Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. Not the fake kind she used when she wanted something. "Ryan, please, we can fix this." I didn't mean what I said that night. I was just frustrated. I leaned back in my chair. "Why now?" I asked. "Because it's finally hitting you that you're about to lose your safety net." "It's not about the money," she said quickly. "I love you. I always have." That almost made me laugh. "You haven't looked at me with anything but contempt for years," I said, "until I stopped caring. Now suddenly you love me? Come on, Ryan, think about the kids," she pleaded. "They need both of us together. They need parents who respect each other." I corrected her. "And you made it very clear. You don't respect me. You said I'm just a co-parent. So that's what we'll be. Co-parents. Just not under the same roof." "I'll fight this," she snapped, her tone shifting. "I'll get a lawyer. I'll tell them you've been planning this, hiding money." "Go ahead," I cut her off. "Everything I've done is completely legal. I checked with 3 different lawyers." I tapped my phone, which had been sitting on the table the entire time. "And just so you know, I recorded that. One-party consent state. Threatening false claims during a divorce doesn't look great in court. Her face collapsed. She knew she had lost. The next few days were, honestly, pathetic. She tried everything. Crying, begging, suddenly becoming the perfect wife. Cooking meals, asking about my day, trying to get me back into our bed. I'd already been sleeping in the guest room for weeks. She even turned on her own friends. One of them actually called me, asking if something had happened, because Lauren had snapped at them and told them off when they started their usual anti-man rant. The final blow came when I took the kids to meet with a real estate agent. We were selling the house. Lauren wasn't invited. When she found out, she completely lost it. "You can't sell our house without me," she screamed. "Actually, I can," I said calmly. "Check the deed. It's in my name. Your credit was too bad to be on the mortgage, remember? All those maxed out cards for self-care?" I showed her the paperwork. Her name wasn't on it. We had talked about adding her later, once her credit improved. But that never happened. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go?" I just shrugged. "Not my problem anymore. We're just co-parents, remember?" And honestly, barely that. A week later, she showed up at my office, begging, saying she'd do anything. Couples therapy, quit her blog, get a real job, whatever I wanted. "It's too late," I told her. "You decided I wasn't worth loving a long time ago. You just didn't expect me to eventually agree with you." The divorce moved fast. She didn't fight it. She couldn't afford a lawyer who could compete with mine, and she knew the evidence wasn't on her side. The judge awarded me primary custody. She got every other weekend and one dinner visit during the week. The look on her face when the decision was announced, I'll never forget it. Pure shock. She really believed being a mother automatically meant she'd get the kids, no matter what. Reality hit her hard. The house ended up selling for more than I expected. With my share, I bought a better place, closer to the kids' school, 3 bedrooms, a big backyard, and a proper home office so I could work remotely some days and be there for them. Lauren, on the other hand, ended up in a small 1-bedroom apartment across town. She had to get an actual job for the first time in years. Some entry-level admin role that barely covered rent. Her blog? Still just a hobby no one cared about. The first time she dropped the kids off after having them for the weekend, I caught her looking around my new house. There was envy in her eyes. It was everything she used to talk about wanting. Open layout, modern kitchen, space. But it wasn't hers anymore. "The kids seem to like it here," she said, trying to sound casual. "They do," I replied. "They each have their own room now. And there's a park just down the street." She nodded, shifting awkwardly. "Listen, Ryan, I've been thinking about everything. I made a huge mistake, probably the biggest one of my life. I took you for granted, and I'm paying for it every day." I just looked at her. "Yeah," I said. "You are. Is there any chance, even the smallest chance, that we could try again?" she asked. "For the kids? For us?" Her eyes were desperate. I slowly shook my head. "There is no us, Lauren. You said that yourself. We're just co-parents now. And that's all we're ever going to be." The words landed on her the same way hers had landed on me months ago. I watched the hope fade from her face, replaced by the quiet realization that she had done this to herself. "I'll pick them up Wednesday for dinner," she said finally, her voice flat. 6:30 p.m. I replied. "Don't be late." I closed the door, then turned back toward my kids, my home, my life. A life that, for the first time in a long time, actually felt like mine again. Update. It's been 2 years since the divorce. And honestly, I'm in a really good place. The kids are doing great. Chloe and Mason are 11 now, doing well in school, staying active with sports and other activities. As for me, I've started seeing someone. She's a pediatric nurse I met during one of Mason's doctor visits. And she's everything Lauren never was: supportive, present, and genuinely interested in both me and the kids. Lauren? Last I heard, she had to move into an even smaller apartment. Her blog quietly faded away. No audience, no traction, nothing. And those empowered friends of hers? They disappeared once she couldn't afford brunches, workshops, and all that lifestyle stuff anymore. Funny how that works. She still calls me sometimes, usually after a bad date or a rough day, crying, telling me she made the biggest mistake of her life. And every time, I give her the same answer. "I know, but we're just co-parents now. That's all we'll ever be." The kids still spend every other weekend with her, but even they've started noticing the difference. "Mom's always on her phone when we're there," Chloe told me once. "Not like here, where we actually do stuff together." And honestly, that's the real win for me. Not the house, not the money, not even watching Lauren deal with the consequences of her choices. It's knowing my kids see and value a parent who's actually present in their lives. So yeah, that's my story. If you're in a situation where you feel taken for granted, like you're just a convenience in someone else's life, understand this. You deserve better. You deserve to be valued. And sometimes, the only way to make someone realize your worth is to remove yourself completely. Karma's a hell of a thing. Edit. Damn, this really blew up. Appreciate all the support, seriously. To answer some of the most common questions. Yes, everything I did was legal. If you're dealing with something similar, get a good lawyer and document everything. No, I don't feel bad for her. She made her choices. And yes, the kids are doing great. At the end of the day, kids need stability and attention. Not some fake, picture-perfect Instagram version of a family. Edit 2. For those asking about finances, talk to a financial advisor as soon as possible if you feel like your marriage is heading downhill. There are legal ways to protect yourself that don't involve hiding assets. Just don't wait until it's too late. Edit 3. No, I'm not bitter. I've moved on. If anything, writing all of this out was actually kind of therapeutic. And yes, Natalie, the nurse I'm seeing, she knows everything.